So the adhesive backed print means that I'm able to use whatever thickness of paper without it needing to go through inkjet. And I wanted to give a demo because it's actually more difficult than it might look to just attach adhesive to something. But the things you'll need is a mat board, a ruler, some kind of X-Acto knife, probably a pencil. And you don't necessarily need something like one of these bone file folders or a squeegee. You can actually just use like something as simple as a credit card or ID. I find that it helps to have some kind of low tack tape, scissors, whatever else for making marks. So I know that it's going to print on something that's 11 by 17. So I'm going to, I guess, mimic what this thing would look like if I need to make an exactly 11 by 17 cutout. And anything I want to do to this, I need to cut it first and then apply it. So I'm just going to make myself a mark where I know this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It'll be 11 inches this way. And I'm going to mark this with some tape so that I don't have to make a permanent mark. So my 11 mark is here on my mat board. I'm lining up this to make sure it's along the edge that it's actually measuring from. Sometimes you might misconstrue what feels like 0, but you can always count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I generally put either my mark, like an X, on the side that I'm not using. But I'm just going to use the tape to mark where 11 inches is on this side. And a little reminder of what's coming off with an X. And then I'm going to use my ruler to also measure out 17 inches this way. In the case of the print that you'll see, very likely the edge that you'll want to cut down to will be wherever the gray print stops. So I measured out 17 inches on this ruler here, adding another piece of tape, going this direction. You can also use a pencil in case you can still lightly mark it. And then this is also going to be 11 inches this way. Mark. I generally like doing the short side cut first. If your mat board's big enough, it's easier to know what's a 90-degree angle or perpendicular. But in this case, since I can't fully read the mat board underneath it, I'll just make another mark for 17 inches so that all I have to do is go from one mark to another or one side to another. All right. So now that I've got the marks and knowing which part I'm cutting out by marking an X, I'm going to have a cut that's going there and a cut that's going across that direction. This is my favorite ergonomic style of cutting. I think Fiskars makes it. It kind of wraps around your finger, and it means like the pointy bit follows how you kind of naturally want to move your arm and hand. The way I also usually cut is I make a light score and then a final cut. Light score, just to make sure that my hand has got enough pressure down, and then like one through cut. Set this aside. This is a little bit harder because my mat board isn't the same length as the 17 inches that I need to cut. So I'll just cut part way through and then finish the cut by readjusting the paper so that I'm always cutting on top of the mat board. Doing a light score and then cutting. And then for the rest of it, I like to put the knife down and then move my ruler against it. And then I'll score lightly again and then do one final pass. So this is now, in my case, this is going to be 11 by 17. And I don't get any redos for when I put this down. And so that's why you want to figure out exactly where you want everything first and make marks, not with necessarily tape, but since your print will kind of cover up, you can always make a mark where it would be covered up by the image. So in this case, let's say I've already done some of the measurements for if you're making this. So let's see, I've got some measurements that say 2 1/8 inch is how far it'll come in. If that's where like the first paper is. And then the cover, that's gonna come in, oh, that's 2 1/8 inches. And then it looks like it'll stop at 11 3/4. So you'd make those kind of marks, but inside of where you want your print to go. So in my case, I'm just going to measure and make sure that it's even on both sides before I stick this down. This looks like 1 inch and 5/8. Inch and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 16ths. So I'll move this slightly over. 6 1/4, 6 1/2. So I'll adjust this. Six 1/4. All right. So I'm going to make my marks just underneath, so we know where this will go on each corner. And I'm kind of holding the print down with clean hands, just so that it doesn't like lift up too much. And I'm trying to get the right distance. All right, so now I've got 4 crop marks or registration marks that will be hidden underneath all this. And the way that I like to work with this is actually doing the short side and then coming down. You'll take the adhesive off, but only, let's take off maybe only 1/4 inch. So I'm peeling the back off. It's a little tricky to get underneath it at first. But you're not going to peel the whole back off. So that's usually the mistake that people do, is they think they're going to put it down and are ready. But what I would suggest is peeling down about an inch and cutting off only 1/4 inch of the backing. So I'm cutting off 1/4 inch of the backing so that this part will stick down and nothing else. And this is also very similar to how you'd ever apply vinyl letters if you have exhibitions. And now I'm just going to look at this and go, all right, when I place this down, even though the top will stick, it won't stick entirely, but I can line all this up to make sure it's perfect. If it's perfect, then I will stick down the bottom part. And I can see when I stick this down, it covers up the 2 cut marks at the top. And I've spread this out so that this is flat and there's no bubbles. And now that makes this kind of like a hinge. And with this hinge, I'm going to get out now my either a card or something that's flat and wider. Even if you use a squeegee, that might even be better. But you're going to peel up just a little bit, and you're not going to let it stick down. You'll actually kind of keep holding it up and using your card to bring it down. So I kind of go and push it down with a little bit of applying pressure from one direction. And so that I can notice if I'm getting any kind of like bubbles. And this can actually push bubbles out from the inside out towards the edge. So just going slow is a really good idea. And then with your other hand, you can be peeling this back as you're pushing this down. And so I'm just kind of like looking out to see that this is kind of hovering, and that the only thing that's making this have contact with my paper is really once my ID is pushing this down. Almost at the end, I have 0 bubbles because I'm only pushing and making this have contact with the next paper. Once this touches the vinyl or touches your sticker. And then if there's anything left, you can still kind of look around. In my case, there's nothing. But if you see any bubbles that you want to get rid of, you can move out from the center out towards the side. But in my example, not sure if you can see it that well from this angle, but now I've got like my adhesive print exactly where I wanted it, with no wrinkles and things like that.